Whatever it is you're doing right now, you're going to want to stop, because I am about to introduce you to the next two people that are about to become completely insulin independent in the Eledon trial. This is patient number 9 and patient number 10. If you didn't know already, Eledon already has 5 people that are completely off insulin. These people used to have type 1 diabetes and they do not anymore. So here is patient number 9, Katie, and patient number 10, Chris. I am sharing these videos with you with their permission.
When you get diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, the prognosis is that you will have that disease forever. You will manage it every day, day and night for the rest of your life. I no longer think that that is the case. My name is Katie Beth. I am patient 9 in the Eledon trial, and you are invited to come with me over the next few months as we actively work to cure type 1 diabetes. And if you have type 1 diabetes or love someone with type 1 diabetes, just know I think there are brighter days ahead for all of us.
I'm going to be joining a new clinical trial out in Chicago coming up, and essentially the goal of it is to get me off of insulin. So the trial is through a company called Eledon.
Those videos are awesome. I'm so glad that Katie and Chris are documenting their journey on this trial and allowing us to come along for the ride. That is so awesome. Now, I'm not the only one talking about this trial on TikTok. You get to hear from 2 people that are actually in the trial. How cool is that? So we know the first 5 patients in this trial are completely insulin independent. That's 5 for 5, you guys. The first 5 people treated, they were completely successful and they are completely off insulin. Patients 6, 7, and 8, we should be hearing results on them fairly soon, because it does not take these people very long to go off of insulin once they get their islet cell transplant. So real quick, let me just tell you how the trial works. They go to Chicago and they receive a drug called thymoglobulin, or ATG. What that does is it lowers their T cell to a level where acute rejection won't occur when they receive their new islet cells. It doesn't completely wipe out their T cells, but it lowers them substantially so that these islet cells are in a safe environment for the first several days when they are transplanted. After that, they head home for a few weeks and they are put on the transplant list while they wait for a pancreas to become available. As soon as the pancreas becomes available, they will fly back to Chicago with Dr. Piotr Witkowski, who is the lead researcher in this trial, and they will receive an islet cell transplant, but they will also be started on Eledon's drug called tegoprubart about 2 days before they get their islet cell transplant. Tegoprubart is not a typical immunosuppression drug that you think of when you hear the word immunosuppression. When you hear that word, you're thinking of tacrolimus. Tacrolimus is a nasty drug that has been used for 30 years because it's the best we've got so far. And it's toxic to the kidneys, it's toxic to the beta cells themselves that produce insulin. Pretty ironic that they are toxic to the very cells that they are meant to protect. And because of that, they actually interfere with those cells' ability to produce the amount of insulin that they're supposed to produce. It limits their effect. Tacrolimus also has nasty side effects like hypertension, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes that actually requires insulin replacement, and tremors. It's toxic to the kidneys and the nervous system. It's a nasty drug, and eventually that graft will fail. It will not last forever just because of tacrolimus's nature. It will not allow that graft to live forever. This new drug that Eledon is using, tegoprubart, doesn't do any of those things. What it does is it blocks the T cells and the B cells from becoming activated. Those 2 cells are the primary method by which beta cells are destroyed in the case of type 1 diabetes. And if you can keep that from happening, you can stop the whole cascade of destruction that ends up killing beta cells and ends up causing type 1 diabetes for people. Eledon's drug tegoprubart is a CD40 ligand inhibitor. So it goes and finds the CD40 ligand receptors on T and B cells, it binds to them, and it prevents anything else from binding to those receptors and activating those cells. What it does not do, it does not interfere or touch natural killer cells, macrophages, dendrites, other immune pathways like the complement system. It doesn't touch anything else. It blocks those 2 cells from becoming activated. And so let's look at the first 5 patients. Are they getting sick? Are they getting cancer? Are bad things happening to them? No, they're not. And if there were, they would have paused the trial to investigate. And that has not happened yet, you guys. And the first patient has been insulin independent for about 14 months now. So we have some really good patient safety data to go off of already to tell us that these patients are doing phenomenally well on this drug. So for these trial participants, they will be given tegoprubart IV through their veins every 3 weeks. This infusion that they receive every 3 weeks allows their islet cells to remain healthy and alive and control their blood sugars perfectly. But I just interviewed the CEO of Eledon, and he told me that they just finished monkey trials on a subcutaneous version of tegoprubart, and that they can start testing that on humans probably next year. That is incredibly exciting. That opens up a whole new window of opportunities, because now you could potentially administer the drug to yourself just through a shot in your belly from your fridge at home. That's awesome. It'll be just like taking Ozempic from home, like half of America is doing right now. One of the coolest parts about this trial, besides the fact that these people are all becoming insulin independent, literally every single person in the trial has become completely insulin independent, is how quickly it occurs. It's only taking 3 to 4 weeks after the islet cell transplant for them to be completely off of insulin. Compare that to tacrolimus, which has been used in other countries for islet cell transplant over the last 30 years. It takes 3 to 6 months, sometimes longer, to completely come off insulin. And even when they do come off insulin, the beta cells in their bodies are not functioning at their full capacity because tacrolimus is toxic to beta cells. What it does is it interferes with mitochondrial function. And we know the mitochondria of the cell produces ATP from oxygen. Well, if you don't produce as much ATP as you're supposed to, you can't produce as much insulin as you're supposed to. That's why they are toxic to beta cells. So by the end of this year, we should be hearing that there's about 9 to 12 people that are completely insulin independent from this trial. Next year, Eledon plans to start an additional study with 10 people with type 1 diabetes that have some level of kidney dysfunction. They're going to enter this trial just like these other 12 participants. The only difference is they have some kind of kidney disease. And they would not be eligible for islet cell transplant because tacrolimus, the drug that's been around for 30 years, is toxic to the kidneys, so they cannot receive it. But because of this new amazing drug, tegoprubart, they are now eligible to become cured from their type 1 diabetes with tegoprubart. The CEO of Eledon, D.A. Gross, told me in my interview that they will have enough data next year to approach the FDA and start talking about a pathway to approval. Guys, we're closer than we think. This is very exciting stuff. You're going to want to continue following along. I will keep bringing you all the updates, and follow Chris and Katie along as well.